That's our Sunday, I suppose you can say, spiritual function that we have on a regular basis. We like to get together regularly and chant. The chanting of this Hare Krishna mantra is very powerful, and it eliminates all negativity in the atmosphere and creates complete spiritual potency in the atmosphere. So you might have felt while the chanting was going on, everything became very harmonious, and actually we could solve all of the world's conflicts and problems individually and collectively and internationally, just so we got everyone together and we just chanted on a regular basis. So that's our presentation to the United Nations. Next week we're going to invite Donald Trump to come here for the following Sunday.
And dance with us.
Get some chanting happening, then we'll solve all the conflicts in the world. You know, whoever's arguing, you just come together, you chant, and then we'll remove all the conflict. You know, we'll get Iran, Iraq, we'll get everyone who's got problems, just bring them all together, get them in one room, everyone chant and be happy. That's our motto at Hare Krishna Valley. So at Hare Krishna Valley, we're teaching people this simple philosophy of union through spiritual connection. If we're spiritually connected, then we're all united. If we're spiritually disconnected, then we become full of conflict and chaos begins to manifest on the earth. So we'll ask if anyone has any questions that you'd like to ask a member of the Hare Krishna movement about the meaning of life, the universe, everything. Then we'll try to give some advice on the situation. So does anyone have any questions they would like to ask? We've just had a weekend retreat, which we're just finishing, and we've answered hundreds and dozens of questions over the weekend. So if anyone who's been here for the weekend would like to ask a few more, then you can. Or if any of the newcomers, if anything you'd like to know about, it can be about anything, we can try to shed some light. I'll take one more question.
I've got one for you.
Yes, sir.
What do the words mean?
The words of the mantra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there meaning behind the words?
Yeah, very good. A very nice question. The mantra is made up of spiritual sound. Basically, sound forms everything in our life. When we hear something, it's based upon sound. So sound makes us make the choices that we make in our life, whether we'll go here or go there. Just like I think last Thursday you were telling me you met someone at some market and then that person said to you, why don't you come down to a... Oh, that was me, that's right. They came to the nightjar on Thursday night. Yeah, I met this lovely family. They came and I invited them. I said, why don't you come to Hare Krishna Valley? And they came down. Yeah, lovely people. This is my wife, Atuya. So she's good friends from Werribee. So they came down. So everything's based on sound. So during the week, we watch television, we get sound. We listen to the radio, we get sound. Internet, even when we read something, it's sound on the subtle platform. And then that forms our choices that we make in life. So unfortunately, at this point in time, the whole world is surrounded by materialistic sound. Go here, do this, buy this, eat this, drink this, touch this, do this, like that. And then everyone's forming their choices and everyone's confused. So the mantra is made of spiritual sound. It's actually made, according to our tradition, our teachings, it's made of the names of God. Krishna and Rama are names of God. Hare is his female counterpart. So it's the masculine and the feminine. You see in the picture at the back, God is the bluish cowherd boy, and Radha, Hare, is his golden girlfriend. So the masculine and the feminine aspects of God, they are together. And when we chant the mantra, we're invoking their divine presence. Shakespeare, he said that a rose by any other name is still a sweet. So you can call a rose a gardenia, but it still smells like a rose. It doesn't change anything. Names are just temporary fixations. Just like you can call yourself Bill, or then you can go to the lawyers and then you can say, I want to change my name to Frank. So they just fill out forms and you become free. But you're still the same person. The name is just temporary. However, the names of the divine, of Krishna, of God, they are not temporary. They're eternal sounds. He doesn't change his name. Like after 5 million years he says, I don't want to be Krishna anymore, I'll be Swen. So now everyone call me Swen. Hare Swen, Hare Swen, 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 Hare. Like, it doesn't change. It's fixed in eternity. So because his names are non-different from him, Abhinitwa Nama Nama No, it says in the ancient teachings, the name and the personality have the same potency. Because he is spiritual and all-powerful, the names also have that same vibration. So when we do the chanting, we're invoking the divine power of the original person himself, and we feel his presence. That's why we feel blissful. That's why sometimes people, they say the Hare Krishnas always look happy, because we're doing the chanting, we feel we're connected to God, Krishna, and then we feel happy. So it comes to the deepest level of the soul. And sometimes we chant around the world, on the streets of the world. We're bringing that spiritual sound into the world to try to purify the atmosphere and elevate people to the spiritual platform so that they can actually relate to each other properly and with love and harmony. You'll see in the Hare Krishna movement, generally, there's love and harmony in the interactions. So that is the purpose of the chanting, that's the meaning of the mantras. That's a basic comment. I mean, there's a very deep kind of science behind it, so we could go to a very deep level, but that's just that basic. You need a chair? There's chairs up here.
There's chair up there.
Yeah. Thank you for coming, Mr. Tricky.
No worries.
Which is his father. He's a very good friend of mine, very old friend. He's actually a priest. Good to see you. Okay. Any other questions? Do you want a chair, Mr. Tricky?
Nah.
You still got it? Anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
The offerings, while that was going on, with the incense and the candles, and then the horsehair.
It's yak.
Yak.
Yak tail. Yeah, from the Himalayas, Himalayan yak. And that's
what is the significance of that in conjunction with the chanting and dancing?
the actual ceremony that we were doing.
Yes, it was happening at the altar.
Yeah, that's called, in Sanskrit, it's called an arati. It's a way of receiving an honoured guest. If someone comes to your home, the first article that we offered, because basically what we're doing, we're actually, it's a little reverse, but the principle is the same. If someone comes to your home, you receive them with gifts and a welcoming situation. We've entered into God's house, hypothetically, well, not hypothetically, factually. We've entered into His house. So we're recognizing His position in the altar. He's the center of attention. And we're respecting Him, or in one sense you could say welcoming or just respecting. But it's the same principle in the ancient Indian culture, the Vedic culture, that if you go to or someone is invited to your house, then you receive them with particular articles. So the first is the incense, agabati. We offer the incense just to purify the atmosphere, pleasant fragrance. Like someone comes to your house, they walk in and say, oh, that's nice. So it just creates a nice mental atmosphere. And then the second is the flame, the lamp. That's because traditionally there wasn't electricity. That's only last 100 years. Now everything's electrified. But previously, you would go around the house and light the lamps just to make it welcoming, so it's not dark. So that's the significance of the... And because we're offering each of these articles to Krishna, to God, they become purified. That's why we take them around and everyone touches like that. Because now the fire is purified by being offered to Him, blessed. So then by touching it, you also become purified. Like we're explaining about our food. When you eat the food, then that's purified. And then we offer the water. So the water is for bathing. When someone comes to your house, these days you just drive up. You just arrive at someone's house and you Mercedes-Benz pull up out the front. But in the old days, people would walk, often for long distances to get to your house. So when they came, you would refresh them. Here's some water, bathe yourself, take a shower if you want, like that. It's a way of... Then we offer the cloth. The cloth is, you would offer, if you were wealthy enough and you had the facility, you would offer people fresh clothing. That's considered very honourable. If you come to someone's house and they say, here's a fresh set of clothes, keep it like that. That's considered very honourable. We don't do these things so much in the West now. But even when I go to India, sometimes I go to a friend's house. So as you're leaving, they give you some robes, some dhoti or cloth, or a kurta, like a shirt or something. It's an offering for a guest. Then we offer the flowers. So the flowers, we make the garlands. You can see like the garland on the detail, or you can see pictures of. We offer when you arrive in Hawaii, they give you a lei when you get off the, and then everyone goes like that. So that's part of the ceremony, like that. Then you offer someone flowers, cools the body, has a nice fragrance. So in India, because we're an Indian-based tradition, if you go to someone's house, quite often they'll make a flower garland and they'll offer that to you. It's a sign of respect. It's a sign of, it creates a cooling atmosphere. It's pleasant, like that. It makes you feel a little special. When I go to the temple in Melbourne, like some mornings I'll sit and I'll give a class in the temple, and whoever gives the class, we offer them the garland of respect. So then I get that. And then during the day, quite often I keep it on. And then I'll go down to South Melbourne because I have to do something. I'm walking down Clarendon Street, I'm wearing this garland. As I'm walking down, people kind of part. And you're just walking, you're wearing a garland, you can go anywhere. It's like, people, everyone's sort of like, it's like, it's far. So it's a way of offering respect to someone, like that. And then is the chamara. So we offer the yak tail. The yak tail is considered pure. That's why we use that particular hair. And you'll see in the old movies like Cleopatra, or the ancient movies, you'll see, Cleopatra or any of the kings or the queens, they'd be fanning them, like the Egyptians used to do that and like that. So it's a way of keeping the insects away and offering a cool breeze like that. So it's a cultured way of receiving someone. These days people just ring your doorbell, you say, you just say, come in, and people come in and then, just sit down, do you want a drink, like that. So it's kind of like that, but back then it was a little bit more cultured, and because sometimes people come from a long distance, so you want to receive them nicely. And very soon we'll bring the offering, the food that we've cooked, and you'll see Tareen will set up the screen and she'll offer the food to Krishna, to God, to offer a nice meal, and then he blesses it, and then we taste the food. And as we've been explaining over the weekend, when you taste the Hare Krishna food, that's the secret ingredient, is the offering to Krishna. And then when he touches it, when God himself touches it, it becomes purified, spiritualized. And just by eating it, like we said at the beginning of the weekend, it's food yoga. So just by eating it, you're purifying your consciousness and becoming enlightened, actually. And that's why they become addicted to Hare Krishna food. And that's a good thing to become addicted to. And that's the only thing we allow people to become addicted to. Other things don't become addicted to, that's okay. And I'm looking around, I can see a few addicts here in the audience today. I won't point them out, but they know who they are. They can't live without it. I'm not being over dramatic here like that. I know the people. I can see the look in their eye at the moment. So. But it's something that if you become addicted to, it actually liberates you. Other addictions, they take you down into darkness. This addiction takes you up to enlightenment. So it's a totally different thing. So if you like the Hare Krishna food, you can have as much as you want. And the founder of our movement, Prabhupada, he said for the first 6 months that you join the Hare Krishna movement, he gave permission, you could eat as much until you waddled like a duck. So if you want to have seconds and thirds today, that's all on the house. You can have as much as you want. Actually, we let people join if they can eat a lot. That's one of the initiations. Any other? Very nice. Very nice question. Any other questions? Anyone else?
Yeah, I've got one. Is Krishna connected anyhow to Buddhism or secular is, Hinduism.
Yeah, okay, good question. Yeah, nice question. The Hare Krishna movement is technically, it's part of Hinduism. Technically, it's part of Hinduism. And Hinduism and Buddhism are very similar. And the way of life is very similar, the teachings are very similar. We come from what we call the Vedic tradition, which means the ancient teachings of India. And the word Hindu is not a Sanskrit word, it's not in the ancient teachings. It's a modern word. It came up about 1500 years ago. When the Mughals, when Islam was spreading by conquest and it entered into India, as they came down through Afghanistan and then past the Himalayas into India, as they were entering, there's a river there called the Indus River. So as they crossed it, they said everyone on that side, they're the Indus. And then it became Hindu. And then that's where the word comes from, Hindu. So now if you look up in the dictionary, the definition of Hindu just means anyone who lives in the subcontinent of India who practice any kind of spirituality. So it's a very vague term. So these days, technically, we are Hindus, we're a part of it. Although when someone meets me, I never say I'm a Hindu. I always say I'm a Hare Krishna devotee. So within Hinduism, there's different schools of thought. And most of Hinduism these days is perceived to be pantheistic, which means they worship many gods. If you go to India, there's so many gods and so many temples. And if you go to the other side of Melbourne, there's a Shiva Vishnu temple in Carrum Downs, like right on the over near Frankston. And if you go to their temple, there must be about 20 different gods in the temple. So I suppose that's like spiritual tatsloto or something. It's kind of like, just pray to everyone and then your number will come up one day. And then
Somebody will answer something.
Yeah, someone will answer something. So they cover all the bases. It's like, Krishna, Ganesh, Buddha, Ram, Varaha. It's like, Lakshmi, just like everyone's there. If you go to our temples, it's not like that. We're not pantheistic, we're monotheistic. So we believe there's one supreme power, one supreme person, and everyone else, the way to understand it would be like if you look at the government, you have a prime minister and you have cabinet ministers. So the different gods, they're cabinet ministers. There's a god of the rain, Indra. There's a god of the wind, Vayu. There's a god of fire, Agni. There's a god of death, Yama. Very powerful personalities who run the universe. We don't see them, but according to us, they're there and they're very powerful. They orchestrate everything, but they're just working under the boss. So what does the boss do? If you're really wealthy, you don't work. You go on holiday. Right? So that's why we worship Krishna. He's the boss, he's the supreme, he's God. And you see in all the pictures, he's not working. He's just having a good time. He lets everyone else run everything. He just gives them the power. Says, you guys orchestrate the universe. I'm just going to enjoy myself, having picnics or sitting with my cows or dancing in the forest. That's what he does. So we're a monotheistic part of Hinduism. But if you go to India these days, most people are pantheistic. They don't really have a proper understanding. They just see all the gods as equal. And we see like a hierarchy, which is there. Buddhism is similar to us because it also originates from India, from Gaya. Buddha appeared in India. Buddhism was driven out of India in the last few thousand years, and that's why it's not really in India strongly. It's more in Tibet, Nepal, Sri Lanka. It was kind of driven out by certain Hindu kings. They were kind of, disagreements. So it's kind of. But actually, Buddhism comes from India itself, from Gaya in Bihar, the place where the Buddha appeared and became enlightened. So it's interesting is Buddha was a Hindu prince. So he's actually Hindu by nature, but then he started his own branch of philosophy. And there's reasons why he did that. The main teaching of Buddhism is ahimsa, which I was explaining before. We have an ahimsa dairy where we protect. So the main teaching of Buddhism is to be non-violent, to be peaceful. So he saw that he was a Hindu prince, and he saw that Hindus, they were misconstruing the teachings of Hinduism. They were killing animals in the name of Hinduism. So he said we have to abolish that. So he started his own philosophy and teaching, and it was based on non-violence. You were not allowed to kill anything. Unfortunately, people who say they're Buddhists these days don't always follow that. But that's actually the original teaching. We follow that. So Hinduism and Buddhism are very similar. They believe in karma, reincarnation, all these things. We have those joint beliefs and understandings. Technically, when people meet me, obviously I'm a Hare Krishna because I live in Hare Krishna Valley. I've got a Hare Krishna haircut. I wear Hare Krishna clothes. I eat Hare Krishna food. So I'm kind of as Hare Krishna as you can get. But simultaneously, I don't see myself just like that. Like I see myself as being a Christian because I follow what Jesus taught. It's not churchianity, but Christianity. We follow that. I see myself as a Muslim because what is taught in the Quran, the pure teaching, I follow that. I consider myself a Buddhist because everything that the Buddha taught, we practice that. I consider myself a Jew because everything that's in the Old Testament, we follow that. So we don't see ourselves as being sectarian. And real spiritual teachings, I don't even see myself as being religious, even though by definition I'm a minister of religion, but I see myself as being spiritual. And I see all the teachings as being coming from the same source, but there may be different amounts of information according to historical times. Maybe the teacher could not give everything at that time. And Jesus actually said, correct me if but Jesus actually said, I have much to tell you, but you're not ready to bear it as yet. Okay. So, not all the teachers who came in the past could give everything because the people at that particular point in history may not have been able to receive it. And you see the welcome that Jesus got. He only had 12 followers at the time, the principal followers. There were more followers also. But the way they treated him, because of what he was teaching, was not particularly respectful. They tried to kill him. So he obviously could only say as much as he could say at that particular time. Also, I believe he said, you cannot cast your pearl before the swine. So maybe there was more he wanted to give, but they weren't particularly ready at that point in time. So we see all the teachers as being the same, and if we had them all here right now, if we had Jesus himself here, Buddha himself here, Krishna himself here, Moses himself here, everything would be completely harmonious. And these days, thousands of years later, in the name of those people fight wars and kill each other. It's like, it doesn't make sense. So we're everything. We're Buddhists, we're Hare Krishnas, we're everything. But I particularly follow this tradition because I find it to be the most complete. Out of all the teachings, I find it to have the most information. Because my desire is to actually know the truth, to know God, to know Krishna. And I find this just gives me the most information. So any other questions someone might have?
What's brought you here? Were you born Hare Krishna or something led you to this?
Yeah, okay, nice question. I myself was not born in this. I was just born in Melbourne and just grew up in Eltham, just a suburb of Melbourne, and just a normal kid. Played tennis and went to school and did the whole thing. But within me there was a deep understanding or a deep aspiration to have higher teachings and higher knowledge. That was all. And when I was 5 years old, I started school. Welcome.
Sorry, we're late.
No, it's no problem. If you're late, you're probably a bona fide Hare Krishna because they're always late. So you're probably part of one of our movement already. When the Hare Krishnas came to India, we went to America and we came back to India, and then the Indian government actually thought we were the CIA undercover. And then discussing in Indian Parliament, they said, I think the Hare Krishnas are actually the CIA coming back into India. They said they can't be the CIA because you ring their temple, no one picks up the phones. So it's different here. Different here. It's just a joke we have. No, thank you for coming. So, when I was 5 years old, I started school, and back then, they still had religious instruction in school. They don't have that anymore. They took it out. It's actually when I was in school they took it out, which is confusing because we went to school and they used to teach us things, and then the next year we came and they weren't allowed to teach us anymore. So as kids were like, what's going on? It was good last year, but it's bad this year. It was a bit strange. So when I first went to school, we had religious instruction. They used to read the Bible to us. One lady used to come. And then as soon as I heard the whole teachings about Jesus and everything, just awoken something in me. So I went home and I said to my parents, they weren't religious, they didn't go to church or anything. I said, I want a Bible. So they brought a Bible, and at night time before I went to sleep, they used to read the kids' Bible to me. So it's just something in me. I just had this desire to know things. And then as I got older, I used to go to Sunday school. My parents didn't, but I used to go to Sunday school and go to all those things. But as I got older, I was asking questions, and then they couldn't give me the answers that I wanted or needed. And I was asking about reincarnation. They said, no, that's not true. And I said, well, it's pretty obvious to me it is. So, and then, they said there's a place called hell which you live in eternally, which also I don't subscribe to. I don't believe that someone nice, would create a place where those who got it wrong go forever to suffer. I don't believe that. So when I couldn't get those answers, then I started reading other things, Eastern philosophy, Buddhism, and different things like that. And then when I was 15, I lost one of my brothers. One of my brothers died in a tragic accident. So that reawoken something in me very powerfully. And then I really had to understand what was life for, what was the truth. And then after, just different things happening to me, relationship breakups, and by the time I was 19, I was kind of over it all. I was kind of like, well, I used to wake up in the morning, just look at the room and think, like, is this it? So then I started reading different things and going different places, and then I got a Hare Krishna book, and then I read it. My grandmother left it at her house. I picked it up and I read it. And just as I was reading it, it was like everything was just resonating. It was like everything was just fitting into place. It was like everything I knew in me but I couldn't say was all being said. So then, by the time I finished the book, I didn't actually finish the book, but because the last chapter tells you to chant Hare Krishna, and I never read the last chapter, so I didn't actually start chanting at that point. But I just, in my heart, I thought, I've got to go to this temple, I've got to check it out, I've got to learn more. But like everyone, I had material desires. And I had one friend who was going to sail a boat from Australia to the Mediterranean, pick up another boat and come back. And then I was studying acting in an acting school, and then I was waiting for my big break to become a famous actor. So when that didn't happen, and my friend's boat was still in the dock after 9 months, and that wasn't going anywhere, and I hadn't become a famous actor, then I thought, okay, I'll go to the Hare Krishna temple, and find out what that's about, because my material desires weren't going according to plan. And then when I went to the Hare Krishna temple, as soon as I walked in there, I just felt like a peace and a resonation with the energy there, which made me feel that this was my home. Just sometimes you go somewhere and you just automatically feel like this is it, it's my home. And then I sat down and had lunch with one of the monks, Jai Tirthacharan Prabhu, and he answered my questions for about 2 hours. And at the end of it, I said, so what do I do? I want to move in, become a monk. And he said, well, you can't just walk in, just become a monk. And I said to him, well, I'm going to come back every day, so you might as well let me stay here. It saves me driving back and forth like that. So he said, okay, come and meet our president. So I came to meet the president on the following week, and then same thing, I spoke to him for 2 hours, said the same thing, I want to move in. He said, well, you can't just move in. And I said, well, I'm going to come here every day. So I convinced him. He said, okay, when? I said, I'll be here next week. So I just finished up a few things I had to do, and then just became. And when I actually started it, I didn't necessarily think I was going to do it my whole life. But then after a couple of years, it was just, I'm only speaking from my personal perspective, but the clarity which I feel, the understanding that I have, the way I see the creation, the universe, everyone within it, the clarity I've got, I couldn't do something else at this point in time. It's too embedded within me now. And as I was saying to people over the weekend, when I look around the world as a whole, I see so many problems. And those problems can be easily fixed, easily, just with a change of consciousness and a change. So that's what we want to give to the world now. We want to give that change consciousness, that uplifted consciousness, that spiritual consciousness, and Krishna consciousness connected to the higher being. And that real satisfaction that we're all looking for. Because we're all looking for something, but none of us feel complete. Is anyone here who feels totally complete and satisfied? Okay, well, we should feel that. That's our birthright. That's what we're eternally created for. We're meant to just feel complete and satisfied. And we can only get that when we're connected to Krishna, to God, fully, in love. Like that. And when you have that, then you feel that completeness. And I can honestly say I have that completeness, I feel that. I'm not perfect yet, and my love for him is not fully developed yet. But even the level I'm on now, which is intermediate, it's not the beginning, but it's also certainly not the end. But the wholeness I feel makes me feel totally satisfied. So I just want to share that with everyone now. Get my tambourine and dance down the street. So. But we want to give that to everyone, that basic experience. So, anything else you'd like to ask? Or?
Do you believe in Nirvana then? In that sort of line that you're going with there, when you are complete, is that your Nirvana? Or?
Yeah, the word Nirvana, it's in the Bhagavad Gita, the word Nirvana. And in Buddhism, it's a very popular word, Nirvana. But the Buddhist definition of Nirvana is a little different to the definition in the Bhagavad Gita. Nirvana, nir, in Sanskrit means without, to nullify. Vana literally means the forest. So this world is like a forest, in one sense. We're kind of lost in the jungle. That's how we feel sometimes. So nirvana means the forest is not actually there. That's what Buddhism teaches. It's not actually there. You're not actually experiencing anything. And when you just realize that, that's enlightenment, that's nirvana. But the problem with that is that there's no such thing as nothing. It's called shunyavad, or shunya. Shunya means nothing. There's no such thing as nothing. And sometimes in Buddhism, they actually teach that, and that definition, it lacks completeness because there is no such thing as nothing. So if our goal is nothing, that's a very bleak destiny. So if that's the definition of nirvana which someone is talking about, then that's not what we're looking for. The other definition of nirvana, which is the one given in the Bhagavad Gita, which we understand, is this world. There are two worlds. There's the spiritual dimension, the kingdom of God, heaven, whatever you want to call it, has different names. And then there's this world. This is the vana, or the forest, which we're stuck in and we're confused by and we're lost in and like that. So yes, this is nirvana. This means we have to understand that this is temporary and become detached from this and relinquish our attachment to this. Because what keeps us in this world? Birth after birth. Attachment, desire. Right? We have attachments. That's what keeps us here. Birth up. We're born again because we have desires, material desires. So in this world, when we become detached from it, that's called nirvana. Now you're detached from the forest. But now the nature of the soul, who we actually are, is that we need to be attached to something. None of us can be detached from something. So then we transfer that from that material attachment, we make our spiritual attachment to Krishna, to God, once again. And that attachment is real, that is temporary. So nirvana means that state of enlightenment. I've given up the material, but now I'm fully dedicating my soul and my energy to the spiritual. So that nirvana we accept. That's the nirvana we're aiming for. And I haven't got to that yet. I'm not on that platform where I'm seeing Krishna, God, face to face. I can feel his presence, definitely, profoundly, but I haven't seen it yet. Good question. Very good question. Any other questions from our enlightened audience? Looks like everyone's entertained, enlightened. Mr. Tricky.
It's also important to be attached to things connected to Krishna too, isn't it? Because sometimes I think when people think of God, they just think of an isolated being. there's all sorts of paraphernalia connected to Krishna. It's great to be attached to it too. So, yeah, I'll say something. Can you say something about that?
Yeah, that's a nice point. The principal thing which would come to my mind would be the devotees or the followers of Krishna. That's the main attachment that we should cultivate. Because we can't directly contact the Supreme Entity at this point in time, directly. I mean, we can feel his presence, but we don't directly commune with him or relate to him. But we can relate through his devotees, those who are dedicated to him. And he sends them into this world so that we have that opportunity to be with them. So actually that says Ramananda Roy, one of the great teachers from the past, he says, of all things, that is the most treasured object within this world, is if you meet someone who actually has that spiritual connection and you're able to associate with that person, that's the most valuable gift. Just like as we speak, there's a great follower of our movement. His name is Venugopal Prabhu. He's about to leave this world. He's terminally ill. Manigriva, my friend here, just got back last night, went to see him, spent a couple of days with him. As we said, the people flying in from all over the world, Indradyumna Swami is coming just to be with him. Because he's attained such a state of realization and consciousness and enlightenment, he's about to leave this world, but he's just so effulgent, so pure. Everyone's just coming to be with him, and he's speaking his wisdom, his final thoughts and words. So that's the most valuable thing in this world. If you can find people like that, then take the opportunity. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you.
Very good to have you. Yes, madam.
What about some form of attachment to the process of, should we not develop, attachment to that, the hearing, the reading, the chanting, the process of, making that a
regular part of your life. Yeah, that's a nice point. If you can't directly commune with the divine, with Krishna, with God, which, we are indirectly, but as Atulia was pointing out, then we connect through the chanting, which is what we're doing before. We're all chanting together. So that's a way of directly connecting to the divine, the supreme. And as you said, by reading ancient spiritual texts. So we have these books, and our shop's full of them. And these ancient spiritual texts, they give you wisdom and guidance. I try to read these every day, these ancient texts. And it allows you entrance into that spiritual domain and gives you the wisdom. As we're discussing this weekend, one of the ways to become enlightened in this world is by swajaya. Swajaya in Sanskrit means self-study. So as you're reading these ancient teachings, you're reflecting on yourself. How do I need to improve? What can I do to get better? How can I imbibe these teachings into my life? So these are the ways by study that we're meant to purify ourselves or perfect ourselves or improve ourselves. So we recommend as spiritual practitioners, Hare Krishna devotees, every day we're chanting, we're reading, and that's bringing us closer step by step gradually to our goal of Krishna consciousness.
Also, with you saying about this association of great souls, devotees, we can't all contact them every day. We live in Geelong, we live in different areas, and there's not sadhus walking around everywhere in Geelong, but also to reading the philosophy, but also sometimes it's been quite powerful reading even biographies about great saints and great personalities in the past, and seeing their particular qualities, and that can lighten some enthusiasm within you. I know my personal experience, if I've had a bit of a lull, I've read just about a great personality in our movement, and it's inspired.
Yeah, that's good advice, to read these biographies, and biographies of our founder, which a number of our friends have brought this weekend in our shop. We have more copies in the shop. Yeah, those kind of biographies are very beneficial. And as I was saying earlier, that these days the wonder of this age is that you can listen daily to lectures by great realized persons. And we have one website called ISKCON Desire Tree, where there's thousands and maybe even hundreds of thousands of lectures by great enlightened souls, and you can just download, and I try to make that my habit every day to listen to them. And So many ways. That's the advantage of technology. You can listen, I can live stream lectures from the other side of the world at the moment and listen to
Seminars,
Yes,
topics.
Yeah, very beneficial. Any other questions from the esteemed audience?
Brief one, if I
Yes, sir.
What about people who are on a spiritual journey, but at the same time believe very strongly in the scientific method? How do you reconcile the two? Because it seems to me that they're quite possibly complementary. However, if one takes a fundamentalist sort of view of religion, they're probably not complementary. How do you reconcile those two things?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, interesting point. The founder of our movement, Prabhupada, the Swami, he came to America in 1965 and then he left the world in 1977. And the last 2 years of his life, one of his principal contributions to our movement, also to the world, he created the Bhaktivedanta Institute, which was a scientific division of the Hare Krishna movement. So they have a website, and we have books even. Do we have? Not in our shop, but in Melbourne we do.
Yeah.
There's many books which have been written, which have become, some of them have become quite famous and quite well read around the world, even in alternate scientific communities, about the way evolution and science and all these things can amalgamate. So it just needs to be approached in the right way, with someone who's learned who can amalgamate it. Prabhupada could do that. He could bring the two worlds together and amalgamate them. With the Dalai Lama, a number of years ago, I think 1996, we actually organised a conference in Calcutta, which was attended by 500 scientists around the world, which was an amalgamation of science and spirituality. I have the book from that conference, which gives so I can lend you, I have a number of books on these things. And then if you go on the internet, there's a very good book called Rethinking Darwin, which answers a lot of these questions, how the two can be amalgamated. Another very good book is called Forbidden Archaeology, which gives a great deal of evidence about the way, it's like everything in this day and age, there's a very biased interpretation. It's not just coming from a religious side, but also from the scientific community. There's a very biased feeding of knowledge to the public. There's a great deal of archaeological evidence which shows that there has been civilization on Earth for thousands of years. We weren't all cavemen, right? But there's a great deal, there's archaeological artifacts which have been dug up for years, even 40 million years into the crust of the Earth. Artifacts which have been dug up which are clearly man-made and quite sophisticated. So, and a lot of these scientific discoveries, they're just kind of shelved away in files and not released to the public. So there's almost like a bias from the scientific community to make us believe in one particular notion of creation, which is the modern theory of evolution. So both things, if you read these books, it shows that both can be understood from a proper point of view. And in Mayapur, which is the Hare Krishna World headquarters in India at the moment, we're actually building the biggest Hindu temple on the planet, which is about the size of the Vatican. It's massive dome. And one of the domes of the temple is a Vedic planetarium. And it actually shows how the universe was constructed according to the Vedic teachings, the ancient teachings. So there's plenty of information for a scientific genius like you to take advantage of.
Even Rena Maharaj does quite a bit too. They're searching for Vedic.
We've got that in our
there's
shop.
a little booklet in the shop as well he wrote not that long ago for scientific.
Yeah. There's a couple of books in our shop which actually touch on these subject matters, so, or else I can put you on to the other books to read. Have you been to our temple before in Albert Park? Or?
I have been once for lunch, but I'm more a devotee of Gopal's.
I've seen you there once or twice. I think you're the most popular customer in Melbourne. But in the temple shop, or if you ask Sudhir or something, they can get the books for you in the temple shop. There's quite a few of the books are available. Otherwise, I can order them for you online, or you can just jump online yourself. Any other questions from anyone? Everyone's hungry? No one's hungry? Okay, we'll see you next time.
It was one yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you're hungry, okay.
Yeah.
So we've created the whole feast just for you today.
Thank you.
You won't leave hungry.
You won't leave it, yeah, because you'll have to eat everything that's there. But we've created a great feast for all of you today. If you'd like to leave a donation, then there's a donation box here. If you'd like to leave a donation for your feast, that would be greatly appreciated. We've got some big events coming up which are organised by the members of Hare Krishna Valley. Next Sunday, down at Lawn, down on the beach, we're having a Holi festival. Holi is when you throw you've seen on YouTube, maybe you've seen pictures of like the Holi festival, and anywhere everyone throws colours all over the place. Yeah, if you've seen Coldplay, they made a video a couple of years ago, one of their songs, and everyone was throwing Holi all over them. So it's becoming more well known around the world. A friend of ours who lives in Utah, in America, he started this festival in the West. It's been celebrated in India for thousands of years. And he started in the West about 20-25 years ago, and the first time he did it, he got 18 people came to hit the event. And he did it last year, 2017, and he got 80,000 people came to the event. So we're going to hold it down in Lawn next Sunday, so you're welcome to come, and let your friends know. If you can't make it yourself, tell people you can come down. If you want to throw colours, and we'll have a live band, Hare Krishna rock band.
What time does it start?
11 o'clock, it goes to about 4 o'clock. And we'll have a Hare Krishna rock band. There'll be face painting for the kids. Hare Krishna food will be there. If there's anyone here who likes Hare Krishna food, you'll get fed. And we'll have fortune card reading, so you can learn about your destiny, where your soul will go for the next 100 years. So,
Is this the same program as the one you're going to have at Bowen Park?
yeah, and then we're going to have the other festival, that'll be in February, and we'll do that in the mansion at Winchelsea. And that one, that's getting a lot of momentum on Facebook, so we think that might be a big event. So yeah, come to that one. If you can't make Lawn in January, then come February over there. And then if you want to leave your email address in our shop, in our book, then we'll let you know. We've got retreats running every month at the moment like that. So we just finished a retreat this weekend. Many lovely people came, many friends who came here. And we do yoga retreats, vegetarian cooking retreats. Got a whole lot of stuff coming up this year, so please join us for that. This is a Hare Krishna magazine which came out a couple of years ago. Our Hare Krishna room was 50 years old in, what year was it? 2016. Yeah, 2016. We're 2018 now, yeah. So it's about a year old now, that book, but it just tells you what we do around the world. Even when I read it, I didn't realise we do as many things as we do. One thing I didn't realise was, I read from the book that there's many organisations in the world who feed people every day, hungry people around the world. And when I read in the book, I realised that we're actually the biggest. We feed 1.2 million people every day around the place. 800,000 free plates of food in India every day, and then another 400,000 every day all around the world. I didn't even know that. I'm a Hare Krishna, not a very good one because I didn't know. I didn't know, but now I've realised that. So if you want to take that magazine, it's just here. When you finish, just go, it's free, and you can learn a bit more about us. Thank you for coming. Please come again. And the one lady who's hungry, please go and have some. And the rest of you, we'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So just go outside, just turn right, and then everything will be ready.